All right, so it is time for Friday Reads. Hey everyone, it is Shannon, and I'm here today to share with you my Friday Reads video. In my Friday Reads video, I share the books that I finished, the books that I started, and anything interesting on books that I'm carrying over week to week. It is the first full week of and up until a Friday in October. What I'm leading into there is that I'm going to start with my Halloween creature feature reading extravaganza books, and then share the other books that I am also reading, some on my TBR, some not on my TBR, mostly TBR books this month, or this week. I've been pretty focused, as the beginning of the month tends to be. I do also just want to say that it is also, I'm here in Toronto, and it looks like we have hit our second wave of COVID, which is not great, but it's just, I do find it interesting to hear about how people are doing, where they are, and those kinds of things. I know Anita from Anita Reads shared how she's doing and how things are in Denmark, and it looks like they've hit another wave too, which makes me feel not so bad about Toronto hitting a second wave. I think we kind of knew as things would open up and things started to loosen up, it's part and parcel, you know, what's going to happen, but it doesn't mean it isn't, you know, eye-opening and surprising and, you know, concerning and all of those things. So I'm not going to go too much into it, but it just thought I would share that, because that's where I'm at. I'm in Toronto, and it does look like we've hit more cases, even more than initially. So that's not feeling great. But, you know, it just, you know, so I just hope everyone's staying safe, wearing a mask, you know, washing your hands, following the parameters. It's really important, not only to you, but to everyone else. And most people I seem to connect with seem to be on the same page. So I hope everyone's on the same page here, because we are really in this together. So on to the reading. So the Halloween creature feature extravaganza reading, I finished two things, actually, and they both work for the same prompt. One was an intentional read, and one was a surprise. So I intentionally read for the prompt, The Chupacabra Ate the Candelabra, and this is by Marc Tyler Nobelman, illustrated by Aranda. This is a kid's picture book, as you can probably tell, and it follows three sheep who are scared of a chupacabra, and to combat the fear of the chupacabra, they hold on to a candelabra, and you can tell from the title sort of what happens there. This was fun. It was a very fast read. It was 21 pages. I read it for the cryptid or cryptozoological creature prompt, and it was a lot of fun. It was a great way to start things out. It was my first finish. I like to have a finish like right out of the gate, so that really worked. But then, as it turned out, I've got another finish for that, and that was Exile. Now, this is a graphic novel. I got it from Hoopla. I'm doing an A to Z challenge for graphic novels, mangas, and romance novels, so I try and read a title from each letter of the alphabet for each of those categories. And this is the one that I picked for X. I just wanted to pick something other than X-Men, because X-Men, there's so many options, right? And I did last year, and I didn't like the one that I picked, and I do like X-Men, and I certainly don't want to not like X-Men, so I decided to go with Exile. And it's got a really interesting style. It was done in 2007, and so I wonder if it was, if you can see the sort of tone, like the shading, it feels like it's done digitally. Like, if you look at her face, it's hard to, it doesn't zoom in very well or focus very well. Anyway, it follows a bunch of people at sea, and there's one of them is on a cryptozoological study. What are the chances? I had no idea it was cryptozoological or cryptids. And so they're at sea and studying stuff, and as you can tell from the title, Exile, they end up being shipwrecked and on an island, and you know, things start to go awry. It was actually pretty good. I enjoyed it. It was, I think it's it was 5 volumes together, like 5 comics together in one volume, around 126 pages. And I enjoyed it. The gender dynamics weren't great. Like, the female characters felt very underdeveloped and are like typey, you know, and but I enjoyed some of the the stuff that would fall under cryptid was pretty cool. So that was a fun, just, you know, it just ended up being like the same work for the same category, so I got 2 for cryptid. Yay! The one that I'm reading for Dead or Undead is Haunted Toronto by John Robert Colombo. This is a nonfiction work. It is a collection of entries for different potentially or actually haunted locations or paranormal, supernatural stories or settings or, you know, folk tales or urban legends or even just locations in Toronto. Like some of the things are like a paralogical society, you know, or bookstores, you know, so it's anything to do with the paranormal or supernatural. I read, it started off with South Toronto, so the lake, the Metrosaurus, this sea creature in Lake Ontario. Oh my gosh. Fort York is included, and there is a lighthouse on Ward's Island that is included, which I think they said is one of, if not the oldest Toronto location perhaps existing. Don't quote me on that. It's so funny reading this. I forgot that one thing that often is connected with you know, these kinds of things is history, which is not my favorite subject and not my best subject. But so it's kind of funny that I'm reading this and I'm like, oh yeah, of course, it's going to go into the history of locations and the people that were there and all that stuff. And so it's kind of funny that it ended up being that way. I'm currently reading the central location, so it's, oh, it must be past Yonge Street because there's a lot that's at U of T, including the UC Ghost, which is one of, if not the most famous ghost story of Toronto. And one of the things I didn't know that's sort of, again, connected but not connected is that Roberts and Davies did an annual tradition of writing a ghost story to share on Halloween. And he did this for 18 years. And they collected all of those works and put them into a book called High Spirits. So that kind of, like, for me, that's a little more recent history, and it has a U of T connection, and I used to work at U of T, so, like, you know, and I lived in near and around U of T for a fair amount of time, so it's just, like, it's kind of cool, like, there's all those little connections, and so far there have been places where I have been to and heard of the stories or not heard of the stories, so it has been a lot of fun to read. It actually is taking me a fair amount of time to read, and it is kind of formatted like a guidebook, like, it has the location, as well as the hours and the phone number, which of course people aren't doing stuff like that now because of COVID, but imagine, I don't know, maybe some places are open, I don't know, I guess you could go on an outdoor ghost walk. But there's also, what was I going to say about that? And then there's also sources, you know, whether it's newspaper articles, and some of the stuff is recent to the time in which this was published, was the mid-90s, but then some of the newspaper articles are from like 18, like whatever. So, and then some are from interviews with people and stuff like that. So it's cool. And there's one right by Eaton Center. Oh, what's that called? I can't remember. Trinity Square? That's not it. It's right beside the Eaton Center, and they showed the house. And there's definitely been, well, all the U of T stuff I recognize, and there was a couple other locations I recognize, Fort York, of course, you know. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun, but I think I'm only like 30% through, and I've been reading it like almost daily, so it's gonna take a while. Another one that I have only just started that is also probably gonna take me all month is My Soul to Keep by Tanariv Due. This is a vampire novel, and I'm reading it for the vampire novel written by a female author, and I've only read the first chapter in this. I'm a little behind on this, and it is, so far it's just sort of the setup. It almost feels like a bit of a prologue, like a family returned from a vacation, their dog was acting strangely, it's a vampire novel, I wonder what's going to happen, I wonder what the dog saw, or because the dog didn't go on vacation with them, so mystery. This actually is quite long. It's over 500 pages, so it is split into 5 parts. So I'm going to try and read 1 part a week, so I really got to get on this to finish my 1 part, because I do my reading planning on Sunday, so I'm going to try and finish part 1 by Sunday, and then read part 2 Sunday through Saturday. So far I'm enjoying it, and yeah. And then also, a late ad, wasn't even on my TBR because I think the hold came through after I filmed it, is The Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury. This is another one that I'm finished. I'm surprised I haven't finished yet. I thought I would have finished Haunted Toronto. I forgot to say that, but I think I inferred that. Anyway, this is, I think this is a kid's novel. It's illustrated, and it's about a bunch of kids who go trick-or-treating on Halloween, and then, you know, it's it's creepy and like stuff happens and it's very adventure-y, and I am really enjoying it. Ray Bradbury is one of my becoming one of my favorite authors, and is potentially becoming one of my authors that I want to read all of their works. But he has a lot, so I might have to do all of his novels and like X amount of short stories, because he's got like 600 short stories, so that's a bit much. And I'm not yet quite committed, but probably everything I've read by him I have loved. So anyway, this has been a joy. It's also illustrated. I don't know who illustrate. I don't. This is not the cover that I have. This nice cover, so I picked it. But there's like every chapter starts with like a pumpkin on like as a part of the chapter head, and they're all different pumpkins. It's just been, and then there's some illustrations throughout the story. So great adventure spirit. Is reminded me that I am currently not reading. I usually read a kid's book series that are adventure-y spirited. The last one I read was Dragon's Breath by Ursula Vernon, and I love that. And it's kids, like lots of illustrations. So if you have any recommendations for kids series, especially if they're illustrated, I would love to hear them. I've read Lemony Snicket's, although that's more middle grade. But anything that's sort of like 100 to 150 pages, I'm looking for something a bit lighter. I could also read the Goosebumps book, but I wouldn't mind a series, so I'm on the lookout for that. So what else am I reading? So also from my regular TBR, I have started Tess of the Dubervilles by Thomas Hardy. I'm still pretty early in this. It's more readable than I expected. Like, it's a bit more easy to understand than I expected. I decided to read a version on Scribe though, because my Kindle version, which is like public domain from Project Gutenberg, I would have to turn the page like 4 to 5 times before it said the page was a new page. And I'm like, I just need an easier progress bar than that. So I found one unscribed, and it's a little bit faster reading, even though it's not. It just feels faster. I don't have a strong sense of what this is really about yet. So far, it's just set about a family and a man who finds out that he is from a more prestigious family tree than he thought. So how this is going to impact the family, I don't know. So very early days for that. I'm very leery of that title, to be honest, and I just have a feeling it's going to grate me at some point. So hasn't happened yet. I finished some stuff. I read Shadowpoint Deputy by Julianne Lindsay. This is Harlequin Intrigue. It is the first in the Garrett Valor, but the third in an unofficial 4 books, and this is for this is a book club pick for Nicole and Jen, who do live shows on Nicole's channel, who picked this book on Wednesday nights, and this is the current pick. It is a romantic suspense novel. The intrigues focus a bit more on the suspense than the romance, and I definitely felt that here. Like, there's lots of, this has he's a deputy, so it's very much he's protecting her situation, which is not my favorite, which is why I don't read a lot of romantic suspense, because it sort of falls into the police or bodyguard, or she's being stalked, or she's being attacked, or she's being whatever, and I don't super like that dynamic. I did enjoy this book, although the suspense at some point got a little much for me. It was something, but it was quite towards the end, and I was like, oh, this might be too far. So it was quite intense, but it was still a quick read. I'm really looking forward to the live show. I'm pre-filming this before the live show happens, but I'm looking forward to hearing everyone's thoughts. We're going to continue the series, and next up is Marked by the Marshal, I believe, and that live show will be Wednesday, like the 13th-ish? 14th, and on Nicole's channel, so continuing that. And then I'm also trying to work through some of the books that are on my currently reading that came over from September to October. My goal is to get half of those done for the month, and to make that happen, I need to finish 3 a week, which is pretty ambitious. I have already finished The Body Is Not an Apology, The Power of Radical Self-Love by Sonia Renee Taylor. This is fantastic. It's unscribed both in ebook and audiobook format, and it has all to do with how it's hard. I find it actually hard to explain, so it's one that I would actually easily reread. I read it digitally, so I listened to some of it, but I'd love to read it on audio. But it very much hones in on the negative impact that we have when people judge us by how we look. And I highly and widely recommend it to everyone, to understand both the impact that happens and what we can do as individuals to sort of, it's weird because there are exercises in it, so it is in some ways a self-development book, but it's also an awareness book. It's brilliant. It really is brilliant. So I would highly recommend that. And I'm really glad that that I finished it. I started it a fair amount of time ago, but it's sometimes in nonfiction, I'm like, faster isn't better. So, but it is one that I would definitely reread because I would love to be more articulate in explaining the concepts, and also I really feel like everyone would benefit from reading it, so I highly recommend that. And then I'm also in the middle of Into the Wild by Jon Krakauer, which I'm such a relationship with. It's narrative nonfiction memoir-ish, which is just a subgenre that does not agree well with Shannon, but I am determined to finish this book. And I'm also back to The Cottage at Pumpkin and Vine. I have one story left in this, but the one is by Charlotte Lovelace. This is a bind-up of 3 romance novels all set around Halloween, so I just have the last one to finish. This one I started last year, so I want to finish it this month, so might as well finish it now. So I'm going to try to finish that before I read Marked by the Marshal, because I try and read only one book per genre at a time. So, and this is romance, and that's romance. So there we go. There is my Friday reads. I feel like I'm doing okay. I feel like at the beginning of the month I always start a bunch of things, so my currently reading explodes. So this week I am definitely going to work on finishing titles, and probably not starting something till I finish something. I think I'm sitting at 28 books I'm currently reading, so I don't know how far down I'm gonna get that, but I don't know. Anyway, I'm really enjoying reading stuff for the Halloween creature feature Extravaganza. The only challenge is I don't like reading scary things at night, so I'm having to make a priority to read those books in the late afternoon, early evening, so I'm going to try and do that because I don't like reading them at night. I read one of the Haunted Toronto stories at night. I thought, oh, one was, sometimes these are a bookstore or whatever. Nope, it was scary. It was scary. It was about someone hearing someone running up and down the stairs, but no one was there. And I'm like, nope, not at night, too scary. So anyway, let me know what you are reading. How is your creature feature reading extravaganza going? If you are participating, I have now officially read 2 titles for it and completed 1 challenge, and hopefully I can finish the challenge a week. That would be good. I might actually aim for that. I think I am. I'm going to do that. Okay, thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful weekend.